Everyone, please calm down, okay? Don't worry. Trust me. I'll get this issue solved in 2 or 3 days.
Trust you? I've got elders and kids to take care of, and work is so hard to find right now. What are we supposed to do?
Listen to me, okay? I know it's tough to find work right now, but let me tell you, over these past 3 years, we didn't cut anyone's wages or lay off a single person. We got through the tough times. It's just a few more days. Nothing is going to happen. Please trust us. Can you solve this for us as soon as possible? Absolutely. Auntie, trust me. The factory won't close. Everyone, trust me. We need our wages now. We're in this together, Auntie. Please trust me. No matter what, we're going to get through this tough time, all right? I don't trust anyone. I just want to trust the money. If you don't give me the money, I'm out. This scene took place at a once thriving garment factory. Orders suddenly plummeted, the cash flow broke down, and the factory fell behind on wages, ultimately sparking a fierce conflict. The workers' demand was simple and direct: to receive the wages they earned through hard work. Meanwhile, the boss's verbal promises seemed powerless in the face of the harsh reality. Similar scenes are playing out across Guangdong, Zhejiang, and Jiangsu. According to incomplete statistics, since March 2026, at least hundreds of garment, toy, injection molding, and machining factories nationwide have shut down or partially put operations on hold due to reasons such as a lack of orders and rising raw material prices. Starting from March 27, Changshu Huaxing Auto Parts Co. Limited, a subsidiary of Ningbo Huaxiang Electric Co., witnessed several days of ongoing worker protest. The workers were protesting the company's method of de facto layoffs. All right, everyone, watch closely. Our leader at Huaxiang is forcing employees to resign. Today, they said if you don't work, they'll threaten to fire you. According to workers, after a sharp decline in orders, the company began prioritizing temporary workers who have lower cost for the limited available jobs, while forcing long-term employees to take unpaid leave with only basic living expenses provided for the month. The aim was to pressure full-time workers into resigning voluntarily, thus avoiding the legal obligation to pay economic compensation. This approach to layoff is not an isolated case in the current economic climate. For these middle-aged workers, many with families to support, what they lose is not just a job, but the foundation of their family and their future hopes. Their fight for rights is less about defending dignity and more about a battle for survival. In contrast to Changshu Huaxing's approach, the outcome at Guangzhou Meiyi garment factory was more direct and sudden. It's really closed down. The doors are shut for good and the place is empty. Meiyi company with 700 employees went from announcing its shutdown to the place being completely empty in just a few days. March 20th marked a grim day for the 700 employees at Guangzhou's Meiyi garment factory. After a strike that lasted for half a month, they received not a solution to their issues but a cold notice of closure. The trigger for the incident was the company's financial strain, which led to a failure to pay social insurance for 4 consecutive months. The workers' initial demand was simply for their social insurance, but in the end, they had to fight for their unemployment compensation. Many netizens commented under a video lamenting the closure. It's such a pity that Meiyi has closed. So many people are reluctant to let it go. It's really unfortunate. The boss's wife must feel helpless. I pity the boss too. After running a factory for a lifetime, no orders, no one buying clothes, but having to pay wages to support so many people. And in the end, they're in debt, back to square one. Indeed, Meiyi was considered a relatively regular company and no one expected it to end like this. A worker's comment revealed the straw that broke the camel's back. The company had delayed social insurance payments for 3 months and promised to make it up. However, when the strike happened, someone posted a video on Douyin, Chinese TikTok, which was seen by customers, and that's when everything fell apart. Other netizens also commented, our factory is going to shut down after this month too. Check back in 3 months. Everywhere will be full of people looking for jobs. This incident serves as a reflection of the current crisis facing China's manufacturing industry. For workers, not striking may lead to continued exploitation with no future security, while striking could accelerate the factory's closure, leaving them unemployed immediately. For the owners, not owing wages or insurance might cause an immediate collapse of the financial chain. Owing wages and insurance, however, could trigger employee resistance, ultimately leading to the factory's demise. Thus, in this tragedy, whether it's the workers who seem to have failed in defending their rights or the boss who helplessly face closure, both are victims of China's economic winter. A more symbolic case of the times is the closure of Li Bao Toy Factory located in Houjie, Dongguan, which had a history of over 30 years. This once influential and resilient enterprise, which survived multiple economic crises, officially announced its closure on February 27, 2026. Some people have worked their whole lives, and now as they grow older, they face unemployment. What should they do? It's really heartbreaking. Sighed one longtime employee capturing the sentiment of many. The closure of Li Bao is not just the end of a company, but also a heavy blow to those workers who had invested their youth and hopes in the factory. The business is hard to run. These words have become the most frequently and heavily uttered phrase among Chinese business owners in the spring of 2026.
还给自己留3个月时间吧。
Give yourself 3 more months. It's the final effort. After those 3 months, it's make or break. Either we get a big order and hang on, or we shut down. There are only these 2 outcomes.
Amidst the widespread lament in the manufacturing industry, one sector is experiencing unusual success, the second-hand equipment industry. These workers bustle between various closed factories, becoming the final witnesses to the many factories' demise.
东莞潭下又一个大厂撑不住了。
Another big factory in Tangxia couldn't hold on and shut down. The sign at the entrance is barely readable. You can't even tell which factory it is. A factory this big is now completely empty. No one's working there anymore. Just a few people left to guard the place.
The second-hand equipment recycler stands in the desolate factory area using his camera to document the bleakness around him. He has just bought a batch of basically new drilling machines at a fire sale price.
只有这2个结果。
海天
In the past few days, a few more flatbeds have been hauled back to the warehouse. Just a few days after the new year, one factory after another is choosing to shut down. How do you all see this year's market?
However, a normal closure and liquidation is not the worst outcome. However, when the owner runs away, that's another story. This second-hand equipment reseller posted a video saying that at 2:30 a.m., the owner urgently called him over. In the darkness, they quickly hauled away the machines that could still be sold, taking them as the last remaining assets. But he couldn't help but post a video to inform the workers.
你们有谁在这个工厂打工的啊？工资拿
Who here works at this factory? You haven't been paid. The boss ran off, fled overnight. He called us in the middle of the night to haul goods and sold off the machines. The factory's closed down, moved everything out overnight.
This midnight escape was meticulously planned by the factory owner. It was a ruthless plundering of the workers and suppliers. The next morning, the employees woke up to find an empty factory and a boss who was no longer reachable. Meanwhile, suppliers were left staring at their ledgers with hundreds of thousands or even millions in receivables turned into nothing more than a pile of scrap paper. In the comment section, a netizen claiming to be a supplier stated that the factory still owed him hundreds of thousands in goods payments. In fact, as the economy has continued to decline in recent years, factory closures have become the norm, and incidents of director running away have become increasingly common. This explains why strikes and workers' rights protection actions occur so frequently. Behind these actions lie workers' most direct fears. They understand well that it is better to fight for what little hope remains rather than waiting for the boss to disappear, leaving them with nothing. What has caused this massive crisis affecting China's manufacturing industry? In summary, it is the deadly convergence of 3 storms. First, the continued weakness of the domestic market. When ordinary people worried about future incomes tighten their wallets, and when the sluggish real estate market spreads its effects across the entire consumer sector, the shrinkage of domestic orders become inevitable. This has caused many factories once reliant on the domestic market to lose the foundation for their survival.
你们有没有觉得今年的经济比去年的经济更萧条？
Do you all feel like the economy this year is even worse than last year? It's getting harder and harder to make money. More and more stores are empty in every street and alley. It feels like everyone is trying to save money wherever they can. By the time next year comes around, will we look back and think this time last year was actually better? I went to the supermarket and there were barely any people there. The shops on the streets are mostly quiet and empty. It's pretty scary when you think about it. What can we do to save this sluggish market?
看一下，这是东莞市的那个
Look at the streets of Dongguan City. Just look at these storefronts. They're all closed. See that? Not a single one is open. What kind of companies? What kind of business agents? What kind of vehicles? Just take a look. Is this a prosperous economy? It's so depressing. See that row of shops? They're all shut down. When you see this, what does it mean? It means we're going backward.
Next, there was a sharp decline in orders. Since last year, Trump's tariffs, along with various anti-dumping investigations in Europe and the US, have greatly reduced orders for Chinese export businesses. Meanwhile, the global supply chain has accelerated in restructuring, with a large number of orders shifting to Southeast Asia, Mexico, and India. This trend has directly emptied China's order pool as the world's factory. Many foreign trade-dependent companies suddenly found their overseas market, which they relied on for survival, were disappearing. As Chinese factories struggled under the dual shrinkage of domestic and foreign demand, geopolitical conflict sparked a surge in global energy and raw material prices, which became the straw that broke the camel's back. Recently, tensions in the Middle East have led to disruptions in the Strait of Hormuz, through which China imports 45% of its oil, making it the largest oil importer globally. Like a domino effect, the chemical raw materials market surged in response, causing a cost tsunami to sweep across the entire manufacturing industry. Among the most dramatic price increases was bromine, widely used in fields such as flame retardants, pharmaceuticals, pesticides, and petrochemicals. Over half of China's demand is imported from Israel. Last year, the main production areas in Shandong completely shut down, leading to supply shortages. Prices soared from 22,000 yuan per ton to 53,000 yuan per ton. Mr. Wang, a chemical material trader from Shandong, stated, "Now most prices are rising. Bromine is skyrocketing. Oil chemicals and coal chemicals are all rising. But downstream demand is weak and it's hard to settle accounts. The industry has been bad for 2 years, producing goods but unable to sell them, with no profits. Bad debts piling up and many closures." The owner of a factory producing TPE and other plastics said that the low-priced materials they have stocked up before the new year were now exhausted. Since early March, the prices of TPE raw materials, including SCBS, oil, and PP, have increased by 6,000 yuan, 1,500 yuan, and 3,000 yuan per ton respectively. If prices aren't raised, they will be losing money. Mr. Xu, a plastic factory owner from Guangdong, also said, "For our TPE raw materials, SCBS, oil, and PP, the prices have risen by 6,000, 1,500, and 3,000 yuan per ton. If we don't increase prices for our clients, we'll lose 2,000 yuan per ton." Clients say they can't bear it either. A lot of small factories will close down. Those who can't withstand it will be eliminated. The owner of a factory producing industrial lubricants, hydraulic oils, and metalworking fluids such as stamping oils and rust inhibitors revealed that some upstream raw materials are out of stock and being withheld from sale. An owner of a factory in Jiangsu producing chemical fiber fabrics revealed that the prices of nylon, polyester, and spandex have all risen by several thousand yuan per ton. Factories that stocked up materials before the new year have made more profit by selling raw materials than from weaving fabrics. Ms. Huang, an owner of a chemical plant in Guangdong, pointed out now some goods have already been monopolized and some raw material suppliers have stopped selling, waiting for another price increase in April. This will have a huge impact on the entire manufacturing industry, and another wave of factory closures will follow. Miss Ye, the owner of a textile factory in Jiangsu, said, "The raw materials have risen so much, wool prices have skyrocketed. There is really no profit. We buy raw materials with cash, but still owe clients. Downstream customers don't allow you to raise prices, and they can't raise their own prices. Many raw material suppliers would rather break contracts than deliver goods because prices are going up. A lot of our peers have had to stop production once the raw materials ran out. Upstream raw material suppliers are breaking contracts and withholding goods, while downstream customers cannot accept price increases. The profit margins are being squeezed to the limit, and many factories are trapped in a dilemma of losing money if they operate, waiting to shut down. As a result, another wave of factory closures is sweeping across related industries, including many large factories. The chain reaction from factory closures has been a surge in unemployment and salary cuts. Once praised as the world's factory, the Pearl River Delta and Yangtze River Delta are now facing the awkward situation of too many workers, too few jobs. Finding a job has become a brutal race for position. At a labor market, a factory posted a recruitment ad for 4 workers, but several hundred people showed up, leading to a messy situation. Some even sat in their cars, refusing to get out, no matter how much the recruiters shouted.
Right now, Zhejiang has 300,000 people stranded. What does that mean? Every day, 300,000 people are constantly looking for work. The situation is like this. A place might say they need 20 people, but in reality, 200 or even 300 people show up.
今年工作为啥那么难找？
How hard is it to find work this year? Just pick any factory and you'll see. A factory might need 10 people, but 200 or 300 people show up.
今年在浙江打工不怎么好打。
Why is it so hard to find work in Zhejiang this year? It's only the end of March and there's hardly anything to do. Most of my siblings have already gone back home. For those still on the job, life is also far from easy. Salary cuts have become a sword hanging over their heads.
工资底薪从3500
The base salary has dropped from 3,500 to 2,200. Yesterday, the company held a meeting for everyone and the boss said, the overall environment is bad. The profits are down and the company is losing money, so they have to cut salaries. As the front lines of the industry are filled with despair and ordinary people struggle in the mirror of unemployment and salary cuts, the grand narrative from the Chinese Communist Party seems to come from an entirely different world. On March 26 at the Boao Forum of Asia, Zhao Leji, chairman of the Standing Committee of the National People's Congress, delivered a keynote speech emphasizing the need to grasp the correct direction and signaling to the outside world the importance of economic stability and continued openness. However, from the operational realities of those in the manufacturing sector, the gap between official rhetoric and industry struggles has become increasingly apparent, increasing doubts about the true state of China's economy. Western diplomats and scholars attending the forum also felt that the atmosphere in the venue was notably disconnected from the realities faced outside. Stephen Roach, an American economist, bluntly stated that the recent China Development Forum has lost its soul. This disconnection precisely encapsulates a core contradiction in contemporary Chinese society: the enormous gulf between the top-level design blueprints and the ground-level realities. Prominent China expert Gordon G. Chang sharply criticized this, pointing out that China's long-term economic growth has been overly reliant on investment and exports, with domestic consumption accounting for an extremely low share of the GDP compared to the global average. This structural vulnerability has placed China's economic fate in the hands of foreign powers. As the dividends of globalization fade, geopolitical conflicts intensify, and trade barriers rise, what was once a stabilizing factor for China now risks turning into one of the greatest victims of global conflicts. Taiwanese scholar Shun Guoxiang analyzed this issue from a different perspective, pointing out that the root of the problem lies in the CCP's long-standing confusion of politics, cheap resources, and industrial security. Politically connected groups enjoy discounted energy and exchange benefits, but when geopolitical risks erupt, the cost is borne by innocent businesses, local finances, and even all consumers. for the workers demanding unpaid wages at factory gates, for the factory owners losing sleep over disappearing orders and mounting losses, the so-called macro analysis is the very pain they are enduring. All of this is the inevitable consequences of the CCP's reckless economic intervention. The legitimacy of a regime's rule does not rest on hollow slogans or military might, but on its ability to provide a secure and prosperous life for its people. When promises of economic growth fail, when the economic disaster it has created start to backfire, the once suppressed public anger and despair will inevitably converge into a force powerful enough to shake any regime. It may not collapse overnight, but every factory closure, every worker laid off, adds another piece to its eventual downfall.